Well, hello. Thank you for joining us. We begin our report with hope and fear in the Middle East. Hope for a ceasefire in Gaza and fear of a broad regional conflict. On Sunday, Israel launched a series of strikes against Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon. The Israeli military said it became aware of the group's plans to launch a major attack and took preemptive action. The IDF claims it killed at least 6 fighters. Shortly after, Hezbollah did fire hundreds of rockets towards Israel. The group had been promising to avenge the death of one of its senior commanders killed in Lebanon's capital city late last month. At least one Israeli soldier died from falling shrapnel after Israel intercepted one of Hezbollah's rockets. The hostilities raised concerns of a wider war in the Middle East. By nightfall, both sides pulled back in a show of de-escalation, but it didn't last very long. The Israeli military resumed smaller-scale attacks against Lebanon on Monday, while Hezbollah says it used an exploding drone to hit military equipment in northern Israel. Long-term stability also hinges on the outcome of ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas in Cairo, which are set to continue this week. CBS News foreign correspondent Imtiaz Tyab has the latest. Imtiaz?
Well, John, the intense cross-border strike and counter-strike really is the most intense fighting we've seen between Hezbollah and Israel in the nearly 11 months of the Gaza war. However, it does seem that the fighting between these two bitter rivals is largely contained, with the leaders of Israel and indeed Hezbollah saying that they are satisfied with the actions that they've carried out, with Hassan Nasrallah, the Hezbollah leader, saying that people can, and I'm quoting here, breathe. Whatever the case, this comes at a time when the violence in Gaza is only intensifying. In fact, over the past few days, just over the weekend, over 200 Palestinians were killed in a series of Israeli strikes, all at the time when negotiators were in the Egyptian capital, Cairo, trying to hammer out an agreement which would see a ceasefire and hostage release deal. Now, although there wasn't a major breakthrough in Cairo, we understand that what's being described as low-level talks are taking place. And tonight, we're hearing from a senior White House spokesman who has said that Israel and Hezbollah's massive cross-border strikes against each other did not impact the Gaza ceasefire, and hostage release negotiations underway in Cairo, saying progress is being made and that the talks remain constructive. John.
Imtiaz Tyab in Tel Aviv. Thank you. Seth Jones joins us now to discuss the situation. He's a senior vice president and director of the International Security Program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Thank you so much for being with us. When we talk about escalation, what might that look like? I mean, are we talking about fighters crossing the border, more missiles, Iran weighing in, and how concerned are you about any of that escalation possibly happening?
Well, John, I am definitely concerned about additional escalation. It could happen in several ways. One is we could see more sustained both air and potentially ground operations by the Israelis in southern Lebanon and Israeli airstrikes in multiple locations, including in and around Beirut against Hezbollah targets. So in growing violence that brings in Lebanon. Also, this has the potential to escalate outside of just Lebanon. The Houthis in Yemen have indicated support for Hezbollah, as have some of the popular mobilization groups in Iraq and some of the Iranian-aligned groups in Syria. So a larger war could bring in Iranian proxies and partners in multiple other countries. I mean, that's kind of where we're sitting right now watching.
Mm. How much do you think the U.S., which has naval forces positioned to deter Iran, is in fact deterring Iran of taking action itself or encouraging Hezbollah to take more aggressive action?
Well, John, I think that the U.S. actions, including carrier strike groups in the region, have probably deterred a major Iranian response. And that may include a big Hezbollah response. Hezbollah has somewhere between, by our calculations, 120,000 to 175, even as many as 200,000 standoff weapons. Those are mostly rockets, missiles, and in some cases, guided missiles. The U.S. Carrier Strike Group in the region, I mean, the U.S. does bring a lot of firepower with that, cruise missiles, fighter aircraft. So in my view, that's probably deterred a big response, but not some of these smaller tit-for-tat reactions that we're seeing between Hezbollah and Israel.
And now, Seth, I want to ask you about these the ceasefire negotiations. They appear just totally stuck. Can you help people understand the nature of the irreconcilable differences that appear to be just, well, not able to be reconciled?
Yeah, John, there are at least three issues that are sticking points right now. One is Israel is demanding a military presence along Gaza's border with Egypt. That has basically been a non-starter for Hamas, and there's been a lot of Egyptian pushback. So again, Netanyahu has argued that Israeli troops need to continue to patrol an area of Gaza along the border with Egypt. This is to keep an eye on material that's coming into or out of Gaza. The second issue is Israel has established a buffer zone inside Gaza and wants to keep it. And there's been pushback, including from Hamas, for that because it's inside of Gaza. And then a third one is Israel wants to retain an option to return to fighting after the first phase of a ceasefire if it doesn't like what it sees. So those have all apparently been sticking points. The first one, the Israeli presence along Gaza's border with Egypt, probably appears to be one of the largest sticking points.
And the sticking point from Hamas's perspective is essentially if Israel is still in Gaza, it's to destroy and eradicate Hamas, and Hamas is not in favor of that.
Yes, and it's in Palestinian territory in Gaza. So it's also been a sticking point for Egypt and Qatar as well. So it's been a sticking point for a range of those both countries and in the case of Hamas groups.
Seth Jones with the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Thanks so much, Seth.